Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone.
Glad to be here.
We are examining this really fascinating piece of audio from the Minds and Motions podcast. It's hosted by two instructors, Mark and Clara.
And on the surface, what they present is just a short narrative about a university student named Leo going to an interview.
Just a simple story. But our mission today is to look at the hidden architecture underneath that narrative.
Because it isn't just a story.
No, it's a meticulously constructed lesson designed specifically to help learners improve their English listening skills.
Mark and Clara use this high-stakes, universally understood scenario of a job interview as the vehicle for language acquisition. They aren't simply teaching vocabulary words in a vacuum. They're teaching context, emotional regulation, and professional cultural capital all at once.
It's brilliant.
The genius of their approach is how they embed behavioral coaching right into a language lesson.
And we are going to break down this entire structure for you today.
We really are.
We'll look at Leo's meticulous preparation phase, the execution of the interview itself, the unique teaching methodology that Mark and Clara employ, which involves different auditory reading speeds.
That part is so interesting.
It really is. And finally, we'll analyze the foundational professional vocabulary they choose to highlight. So let's jump right into the narrative.
Let's do it.
We are introduced to Leo. He's a university student facing a massive milestone. Tomorrow is a very big day for him because he has an internship interview at a large technology company.
And we get his motivation right up front, which sets the stakes for the listener.
Yeah, he wants to learn how to build software.
Right. This is his first real professional experience. He is stepping out of the academic bubble and trying to get a foothold in the corporate world.
Specifically in a modern, forward-looking industry like tech.
Exactly. And Mark and Clara, they don't shy away from the reality of that transition.
No, they point out the emotional core of this experience immediately. They state plainly that Leo is very nervous.
And by validating that feeling, by acknowledging that job interviews induce anxiety, especially for someone who might also be navigating a new language.
Yeah, it creates an immediate bond of empathy with the listener.
It really does. The learner listening to the Minds and Motions podcast is likely nervous about their English comprehension.
Right, and Leo is nervous about his interview performance.
They are embarking on this stressful journey together.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the way Leo handles those nerves is where we get to the real substance of the story.
It's basically a checklist.
It reads exactly like a checklist for foundational professional preparation. Mark and Clara detail Leo's exact steps the evening before the interview. First, he sits at his desk, opens his laptop, and spends 2 full hours researching the company.
2 full hours.
Yeah, he is reading about their projects and their history.
And that 2 full hours, that is a highly specific metric for Mark and Clara to include.
It's intentional.
Very intentional. They are actively signaling to the learner that preparation is not a cursory glance at a homepage.
It's a dedicated, time-intensive process.
You have to understand the landscape, the projects, the history before you even step into the room.
Right. And after the research phase, he moves on to practicing his answers out loud. He looks in the mirror and repeats his pitch.
Classic mirror practice.
The specific quote from the source is, "Hello, my name is Leo. I'm a hard worker and I love to learn."
It's so simple.
He says it many times until he feels confident.
Notice the mechanics of that pitch, though. I am a hard worker and I love to learn.
Yeah.
For a student seeking an internship, that is the ultimate value proposition.
Because hiring managers for entry-level roles aren't looking for a 20-year track record.
Exactly. They are looking for coachability and work ethic. Mark and Clara are quietly teaching their listeners how to effectively position themselves in the job market.
Using incredibly simple, accessible language.
Right.
And the narrative emphasizes that he repeats this until he feels confident. It frames confidence not as some inherent personality trait that you either have or you don't,
but as a direct byproduct of repetition.
Yes. Preparation breeds confidence.
What's fascinating here is how the narrative moves from verbal preparation into visual presentation.
The wardrobe.
The wardrobe. Leo meticulously plans his outfit, choosing a clean white shirt and dark trousers to look professional.
And he goes a step further by placing his resume in a folder so it stays perfectly neat.
That detail about the folder is so striking to me.
It really is. It's such a small physical action, But it carries so much weight in the context of the story.
Because they are painting a picture of what professionalism looks like in a modern corporate context.
Right.
It's not merely about knowing the English word for resume. It's understanding the cultural expectation that presenting a crisp, unwrinkled document in a folder signals respect.
Organization, attention to detail.
Exactly. Mark and Clara are using these tangible details to embed real-world career advice into a beginner's language lesson.
They are transferring cultural capital.
Yeah.
Which sets the stage perfectly for the morning of the interview, the execution phase. The story tells us that Leo arrives at the office exactly 10 minutes early.
10 minutes, not 30, not 5.
Exactly 10 minutes early to a big modern office. And almost immediately, he is greeted by a smiling woman at the front desk who says, "Mr. Leo, please follow me."
The contrast in that scene is deliberately designed. You have the intimidation factor of the big modern office.
Which represents the daunting corporate world.
Right. Contrasted with the welcoming smile of the receptionist.
And that punctuality detail, arriving exactly 10 minutes early, is another subtle piece of behavioral coaching.
It is the professional gold standard. It shows respect for the interviewer's time without creating an awkward burden for the receptionist by arriving half an hour early.
I used to do that. Arrive way too early and just sit there sweating.
We all did. And the language the receptionist uses is also a shift. "Mr. Leo, please follow me."
It introduces a level of formal address that the learner might not encounter in casual conversational English.
It signals that Leo has officially crossed the threshold into the professional arena.
Then we reach the climax of the narrative inside the interview room. The manager starts asking Leo about his skills and his school projects.
Hot seat.
For anyone sitting in that chair, this is the moment your heart starts racing and your mind goes blank.
Oh, yeah.
But the story gives us Leo's exact physiological and mental response. He breathes deeply and he remembers his practice.
And because he executes those two things, he is able to answer every question clearly.
There is a fascinating parallel here. For anyone navigating a high-stakes corporate environment, regardless of where you are on the corporate ladder,
Absolutely.
we often overcomplicate our preparation for high-stakes moments. But Leo's approach, taking a conscious breath to regulate his nervous system and falling back on his simple, repeated pitch, is an exercise in clarity that even senior executives could benefit from.
He doesn't invent a new persona in the room. He relies entirely on the foundational prep work he did at his desk and in front of his bathroom mirror. The deep breath moves his brain out of the fight-or-flight panic response and back into the logical, prepared state.
It allows the muscle memory of his practice to just take over.
And the result of that discipline speaks for itself.
The story wraps up the interview with the manager shaking Leo's hand and delivering the exact feedback every candidate wants to hear. "Thank you for coming, Leo. You did a great job."
Best feeling in the world.
Leo walks out of that big, modern building. The narrative notes that he isn't nervous anymore. He feels proud of himself.
It provides a triumphant resolution for the learner. They have navigated this stressful, unfamiliar scenario right alongside the protagonist.
And they've come out successful on the other side.
The emotional arc goes from high anxiety to confident pride, mirroring the exact emotional journey the listener's hoping to achieve with their English skills.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's shift our focus from the narrative of Leo's story to the actual pedagogical strategy that Mark and Clara employ on the Minds and Motions podcast.
The methodology.
Right. How exactly are they using this piece of audio to teach? They don't just read the story once and move on. They use a highly specific 3-step auditory structure.
This is the hidden machinery of their curriculum. Step 1 is establishing the baseline. Mark and Clara take turns reading the story segments clearly at a natural conversational pace.
It sounds like a standard audiobook or just a casual conversation.
And the listener gets the overall gist of the plot.
Then comes step 2, which is the crucial part of the method. They repeat the exact same story, but they read it very slowly.
Very slowly.
And I mean deliberately, almost uncomfortably slowly. They pause significantly between sentences and even between phrases. The source provides an example of how this sounds. They say, "Leo pause is a university student. Tomorrow pause is a very big day pause for him."
They are artificially breaking the language down into its absolute smallest digestible chunks.
Right.
To understand why this is so effective, we have to look at cognitive load theory. When you listen to a foreign language at normal speed, Your brain is performing two incredibly demanding tasks simultaneously. First, it's trying to translate the meaning of the words into your native language.
Which is hard enough.
Right. And second, it's trying to keep up with the physical cadence, the linked consonants, and the pronunciation of the speaker.
It is mentally exhausting. You are perpetually half a sentence behind, trying to catch up to what was just said while the speaker is already moving on to the next thought.
Exactly. By stripping away the pressure of that real-time translation during the slow read, Mark and Clara give the listener's brain a break.
Because the listener already knows the plot. They know Leo goes to the office and gets positive feedback.
Because the anxiety of what is happening is removed, their cognitive resources can focus entirely on how it is happening.
They can hear how the vowels sound.
Where the emphasis lands on a multisyllable word, the grammatical structure of the sentence.
It's very much like watching a complex magic trick. The first time you see it at normal speed, you're just amazed by the illusion. Then, the magician slows it way down, showing you exactly how the sleight of hand works, where the coin goes, how the cards are shuffled.
That's a great analogy.
And step 3 of Mark and Clara's method is watching the trick again at full speed. They repeat the story at a normal conversational pace one more time at the very end of the deep dive.
And Clara even celebrates this moment with the listener, saying, "See how much more you understand now."
It's so encouraging.
By the time they hear that final normal speed version, their brain has already mapped the phonetic sounds to the semantic meanings.
They aren't translating anymore.
They are simply understanding. It builds confidence incrementally through auditory repetition.
Which brings us perfectly to the final segment of Mark and Clara's podcast. After the 3-speed reading of the story, they transition into a dedicated vocabulary lesson.
But looking at the source material, these aren't just random words pulled from a hat.
No, they explicitly break down 5 specific concepts from the text.
If we connect this to the bigger picture by mastering these 5 specific concepts, a learner isn't just memorizing definitions. They are literally learning the basic blueprint for career mobility.
These 5 words outline the entire chronological life cycle of acquiring a professional position.
Let's look at the 5 core words they isolate. They start with the preparation phase, highlighting the words internship and research.
The meaning they provide for internship is a temporary job for students to gain experience before finishing school, with the example that Leo wants an internship to learn about software.
It introduces the concept of entry-level experience to the learner. It teaches them that there is a specific category of work designed primarily for learning and skill acquisition.
Setting the expectation for their own career trajectory.
Right.
Then they define research as to study a subject or a company to find information. The example being, Leo did research, so he knew what the company does.
This is perhaps the most critical action verb in their entire lesson. It tells the learner exactly how to succeed.
You don't just show up to a meeting.
You actively seek out information beforehand. It frames preparation as an active, required step for professional entry.
From there, they move into the execution phase with the words interview and resume.
They define interview as a formal meeting where a company talks to a person to see if they are right for a job.
The example notes that the manager asks many questions during the interview.
Defining it as a formal meeting with a specific evaluative purpose sets the expectation for the level of decorum required.
It dictates the white shirt and the punctuality we saw earlier in the story.
And the resume, defined as a document that lists your education and your work skills, is presented as the key to entry.
It is the tangible proof of your value that you must bring into that formal meeting.
But the real wild card in their list, the word that elevates this entire lesson, is nervous.
Yes, they clearly define it as feeling worried or anxious about something that is going to happen. Using the example, I feel nervous before a big test.
It is a brilliant pedagogical move to include an emotional state alongside technical corporate terms.
By defining anxiety so clearly, Mark and Clara normalize the effective emotional side of both language learning and career building.
They are acknowledging that emotional state management is as critical to career mobility as having a well-formatted resume.
You can do all the research in the world, but if you cannot manage your nerves in the room, the other steps fall apart.
Putting those 5 words together creates a complete system.
You do your research, you create your resume, you manage your nerves, you go to the interview, and you land the internship.
It is a comprehensive career readiness seminar packaged invisibly inside a beginner English vocabulary lesson.
It proves that the fundamentals of professional success are remarkably consistent.
Whether you are aiming for your very first student internship or you are interviewing for a senior executive position,
The formula of doing deep research, practicing your pitch until it is concise, presenting yourself meticulously, and consciously regulating your breathing under pressure remains incredibly effective.
it really does.
So what does this all mean? When we zoom out and look at this entire source from the Minds in Motions podcast, it is amazing to marvel at the density of value packed into such a seemingly simple narrative.
A story about a student named Leo serves as a brilliant language learning tool through its 3-speed auditory structure.
But beyond that, for anyone listening to this deep dive, it is a timeless reminder of the power of preparation, punctuality, and practice.
Mark and Clara have created a piece of media that works on multiple levels simultaneously. It builds linguistic competence while simultaneously building professional confidence.
For those looking to improve their own English listening skills, or perhaps looking for a resource for someone who is, Mark and Clara end their podcast with a great call to action.
They ask their audience to comment on how much of the story they understood after the final read-through.
They also encourage listeners to subscribe to the Minds in Motions podcast for daily listening practice, noting that engaging with the content helps support their work.
It is a highly structured, effective tool for daily learning.
This raises an important question, though, something to think about long after this discussion ends.
We've seen how mastering just 5 basic vocabulary words, concepts like resume, research, and interview, was enough to get Leo his very first seat at the table in a big modern office.
It begs the question, how much does the more advanced vocabulary we use later in life silently dictate the professional ceilings we hit?
If understanding foundational words opens the door to an entry-level internship, could intentionally upgrading the complexity and precision of our daily professional vocabulary be the hidden key to unlocking our next big career leap?
That is a fascinating thought to leave on. The language we use might literally be defining the boundaries of our professional success.
Something to mull over as you prepare for your next big opportunity, whether it's an internship or a boardroom presentation.
Keep practicing your pitch, remember to breathe deeply, and we will catch you on the next deep dive into the sources.